Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adoption Happy Hour, brought to you by the National Association of Adoptees and Parents, where it is our mission to unify the adoption community and elevate our diverse voices by promoting dialogue, understanding, and healing through education, awareness, and connection. We're so glad to have each of you with us tonight. And at this time, let's show our guests a little love and wave at Janet. Give her a little bit round of applause here, round of applause. We're going to learn a lot about Janet here in a few minutes. We're going to do a few housekeeping items. We'd like to remind everyone to please remain muted, raise your virtual hand on the screen to be recognized, or you're free to post questions and comments in the chat room, which we will monitor. This is a public meeting with no guarantee that information or identity is confidential. Portions of this event are recorded and shared on our YouTube channel. If you are experiencing a serious mental health event or suicidal thought, please contact a licensed professional or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And please rest assured that in this room, which is a safe space, we have several licensed therapists, so we're all in good hands here. So let's go ahead and introduce Janet Nordine. I know many of you know her. For those of you that don't, Janet's joining us from the beautiful state of Nevada, where it's in the 50s, and we are so jealous. Janet Nordine is a Nevada licensed marriage and family therapist, a registered play therapist supervisor, and Nevada board approved supervisor for marriage and family therapists and clinical professional counsel interns. She is an expert in adoption, as she has been adopted her whole life, which gives her special insights into the needs of children and adults who have experienced relinquishment and disconnect from their families of origin. Let's everyone welcome Janet Nordine.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here, and I'm actually just finished my day of working with kids, and so I'm still in my office. So you can see it says playroom. So I couldn't think of a better place to greet and meet all of you and to share this time. So I do have a PowerPoint because that's just how I roll. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay. I'm also going to turn on sound because I have whoops. I have a video later.
Just turn it off.
All right, so I also want to tell you that today is International Lego Day. If you guys didn't already know, this is myself in Lego form on the screen. I enjoy working with Lego. It's one of my favorite things to do with kids and my own self-care, something I really enjoy. I know somebody's going to monitor the chat for me, which is great, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to just get my gallery in a way that, there we go, it's not in the way of what I'm looking at. Some of the things that Marcie mentioned, I am in Nevada. I've lived here my whole life. I appreciated that she pronounced our state correctly because there's a lot of ways to mispronounce it. I've been a therapist here in Nevada for probably about almost 20 years. Exclusively working with children in foster care, children in general, adopted children for about the last 15. I also specialize in working with trauma, adult females. I do consultation with some adoptees nationwide, and I enjoy that, adult adoptees. It's a little bit about what I do, so I'm excited to be here. Some of my affiliations, my business is called Experience, Courage Therapy and Consulting. I am a proud Patreon supporter of Adoptees On, one of my very favorite experiences of being a guest there. I'm affiliated with Adoptees Connect in Las Vegas. I'll be participating in the HERATH Hope and Healing retreats this summer. Looking forward to being in Phoenix in the middle of July just to get out of the Vegas heat. I'll go to the Phoenix heat instead. I'm a faculty member at the West Coast Institute for Gestalt Therapy with children and adolescents. And just this past summer, I taught a group of 25 people worldwide about adoptee language, how to work with adopted children. And it was a delight, and I look forward to doing that again. So I always like when I do any kind of presentation where it's adoption or anything to do with adoption focus, I like to start with this quote. Oops. Shame dies when stories are told in safe places. And we often in this and other adoptee focused and adoption focused organizations and events talk about our stories. And sometimes those stories can bring shame, but I want you to know that this is a safe place to hold your story within yourself. It's a safe place for me to tell my story. I don't have any shame about my story or where I've come from or what's happened in my life. It's just my story. I do want to share just a piece of that with you. So I am from Las Vegas, and my biological parents met on Valentine's Day, 1964 at the Golden Nugget Hotel. And that was delightfully told to me by my birth mother when I met her that that was the day I was conceived. I don't know if many of you get that bit of information from people, but there I am. And I was born 9 months later, November 9th, 1965 in Las Vegas, or in Henderson, Nevada, at the Catholic Hospital. And I had heard from many people over the years that when babies were born in that particular hospital, they referred to the wing as a bastard's wing. And that's where the unwed mothers went to have their babies that were working with Catholic welfare at the time, now called Catholic Charities. And there was a door that the birth mother went through, and there was a door that the baby went through. And that's exactly what Barb, my birth mother, told me. And that's how that worked. Both of my biological parents have since passed on. My birth father just last month, and Barb, my birth mother, in 2018. And I entered reunion very quickly one evening, February 1st of 2017, when I received finally a message from a cousin through ancestry.com saying, oh, I know who you belong to. And then he connected me to another cousin who gave me my birth mother's phone number and said, she's waiting by the phone, give her a call. And I looked at my husband and I said, what do I do? And he says, I think you're supposed to call. And so my 25-year search was over in a matter of moments, just receiving one message. So that's my story. And I've been in Las Vegas ever since. I like it here. I've raised my family here. Someday I may leave, but right now this is where we are. This quote I also really love, that we all live in our stories. Our stories make meaning from our experiences. Sometimes we get stuck in them. Sometimes we cannot make sense of them. And other times we can hardly bear to look at them, even while they lurk in our own bodies. So our stories live within us, and our stories are ours to look at, to take out, to examine, but they don't define us. They don't have to be the thing that makes us the truth. We're the truth just for being alive. And that's important for me to share. My relinquishment by my biological mother was not about me. It was about her not being able to parent one more child. She already had 5 when I was born, and they were in foster care. And so that part of the story is hers to hold. And my part of the story is being relinquished. And what do I do with that? What do I do with my life after that point? And how do I heal? And how do I work through some of those feelings? So we're here to talk about play, and story is part of play. So that's why I started with that part. Play, I love this quote, that play is the highest form of research, by Albert Einstein. I love that he said that, and it's true. When I'm working with a child and I'm studying what they're doing and I'm paying attention to their little bodies and how they're reacting to things, I am doing research. I really love that part of what I get to do, and I get to pay attention. I get to be in the feeling with my clients. Karen Purvis, who TCU, Texas Christian University, there's a child development center called the Dr. Karen Purvis Center for Child Development, and she's the one that came up with TBRI, trust-based relational interventions. And I am a TBR practitioner. I do agree with many of the things that it teaches me, and teaches me how to be with people. I don't agree with some of the language it uses, but I do love this quote. Play disarms fear, it builds connectedness, teaches social skills, teaches competencies for life. And as a child, one of my very favorite things to do was to play outside. I love to be outside. I love to be in nature. I never wanted to come in the house. my mom had to one summer decided that I was going to be more ladylike because she was very proper and always would leave the house with lipstick on, that I would become more girly. So she enrolled me in the Wendy Worms charm school, but she had to come get me out of the tree and out of the mud and put me in the bathtub a few hours before, so I would be prepared to go to charm school. I'm not sure if it did me any good, but I do know how to set a table and I do know how to do some of those things that it taught me still to this day. But my play was outside and my play was in nature and my play was with my pets. So I wanted to share a little bit about becoming a play therapist. And I decided to really focus on children about, like I said, 15 years ago. And about 6 years ago, I decided to make it official and become an expert by becoming a play therapist. And so becoming a play therapist was an extra 3,000 hours of basically working with clients, which I already had much of that under my belt. It took about 200 extra hours of CEUs, which are classes that you take to earn credit. And so it was a lot of hard work and it's been completely worth it. But I wanted to play this little video talking about how children and we communicate through play. So let me go ahead and play that for you. And if anybody can give me just some thumbs down, if you don't hear the sound, then I can fix it before we get too far. I'm looking at you, Marcie, right now, actually. Should just take a second to load up, I hope.
Well, hey, Andrew, how was school today?
Well, it was a very frustrating day. Tommy was teasing me about my haircut, and that was embarrassing. As a way of coping with my embarrassment, I became angry. I'm ashamed to admit it, dear mother, but I could not resist striking Tommy with my fist. While this act of emotional release did offer a moment's respite from my embarrassment, the victory was short-lived. The next thing I knew, Tommy had immobilized me with a headlock and gave me what is referred to colloquially as a swirly.
This isn't how kids communicate, but they do communicate in other ways. Play is a child's first language. When a child plays, they express thoughts and feelings that would otherwise remain hidden. That's why play therapy can be a powerful tool for addressing a child's cognitive, behavioral, and emotional challenges. Licensed mental health practitioners use play therapy to help children process their experiences and develop more effective strategies for managing their world. To learn more about play therapy and registered play therapists, visit a4pt.org.
Oh,
I really just need a chocolate milk on the rocks and a long soak in the tub.
I've seen that video probably a million times, but I think it's funny every time. I love when he says colloquially as a swirly, because I don't know many children that actually know that word and use it correctly. So that's a little bit about play. And we as adults also can communicate through play. These are some of my, like I said, I love Legos. Lego, it's not plural, it's Lego. But these are some of the things that I built recently that I really enjoy. And I try to build Lego every day. It really solves my need for start and finish to a project and be able to have some quiet time in my brain. So the upper left-hand corner is my current favorite, which is the Encanto house. I think it's awesome. If any of you have not seen that movie, take time to watch it. It'll really rock your world and change your life, in my opinion. Okay, so let's talk about how creative play boosts our brain power. So the brain is one of my very favorite things to talk about and to learn about. And I really enjoy delving into how our brain works and what we as humans recognize about our brain and how we can learn to use the amazing creativeness of our brain to our advantage. So there's a kind of a famous saying in the brain world, neurons that fire together, wire together. When we are doing things together with friends or with family or with a group of people, our neurons in our brain, I have my brain on my desk here, the neurons in our brain are firing. They're going back and forth across the middle of our brain. Put it back together. The middle of our brain, so they're firing. They're going into our nervous system. They're working together. And when that's happening and we are enjoying ourselves and we are really engaged in something, that's when connection and happiness and all those good feelings that we have can come together. So I'm just going to go over a few things about our nervous system and our brain so we can get a better understanding of that. So when I talked about story earlier, our bodies take in story from our environment all the time. We're always seeking what's happening around us. So I'm sitting in my office. I have various things on my desk. I feel pretty safe. I can hear some things out in the hallway because other therapists are still working here. My office is at the beginning of the hallway, and sometimes people open the door too quickly and it hits the wall and it startles me. So that's a little startle response that I'll have. So that's how my nervous system works, is I'm always scanning our environment. And I think often when we have experienced trauma, actually, I don't think I know when we've experienced trauma, the trauma of being relinquished, the trauma of relinquishing, possibly being an adoptive parent and having difficulty with understanding what our children need. So those can be ways that we are always scanning our environment, looking for safety cues of safety, and that's called neuroception. Neuroception is how our neural circuits distinguish whether we're safe or we're in a dangerous situation. Now, I know when the door hits my wall, I'm still safe because I'm behind a big door, but what if it hits the wall really hard and the picture falls off and I really get startled? Am I safe then? I'm not really sure. I'd have to evaluate the risk. I'd have to check it out. I'd have to figure that out in whatever way that works. So in our primitive parts of our brain, that's where all that figuring out is happening, and it's being figured out in our body as well. So our body has a reaction which informs our brain of what to do about that reaction. So that's neuroception. We're always looking for, is it dangerous or is it safe? And I don't mean like, is a bear going to jump out at us? Is that person that's across the room that I've spoken to before, but they treated me a little weird the last time I saw them, are they going to be safe today or they're not going to be safe today? That's another way that our body and brain are always scanning. So our brain develops in the womb, starts to develop there, and it develops from the bottom up. So if we're talking about the reptilian brain, it's back here in the back of our brain, and that's how the development starts, forward to our prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is really our thinking brain, where all of that stuff, I sometimes do this, like I make this like a brain, my brain is like on overload. We're overthinking, we're trying to figure things out. And that actually doesn't get developed until we're about 25 or 26. So if you have young people in your home and they don't make good decisions, or you just can't figure out what are you thinking? How many times have I heard a parent say that? It's because their prefrontal cortex isn't completely developed yet. So in our limbic brain, that's where attachment and emotions and behaviors start, and that's somewhere in the middle and here, this part of our brain. We are thinking and planning and is then learning is in the neocortex, which is right above the prefrontal cortex. So they kind of work together. But the important thing to know about our brain is that it's this amazing organism within our body. We use very little of our brain to figure things out, but it can do so much more than what we use it for. So I just wanted to share a little bit about our brain development so we have an idea of how it all comes together. So we take in a lot of information all the time. We can only process a little bit of that information at a time. So we may be taking in billions of bits of information, like I was talking about the noises or things on my desk. My light is on, is it not on, is it bright enough? There's lots of things happening and my brain is just working behind the scenes, and I'm not really thinking about it, but I know if I look at things, I know what's going on. But we just take in very small bits of it. I'm a big nerd. If you guys didn't already know that, I'm just going to out myself. But I love Star Wars, and I envision this is how our brain takes things in, kind of like the scene from Star Wars, where we've jumped to light speed, and suddenly there's just so much happening, and we just can't really figure it all out. I'm just going to quickly look at the chat because I know there's just lots of, yep. Just want to make sure I'm not missing a question. Okay, good. Yeah, so I love this particular picture. Can you imagine if our brain and our nervous system and our body could take in that much information? We would just want to nap all the time. It's just overload, too much. So let's talk about types of play. Oops. Let me move this out of the way so I can see what I'm looking at. Oops. I love Zoom until I can't move things and then it bugs me. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about rough and tumble play. So I often work with families that say our kids, all they want to do is roll around. They make so much noise. We can't get them to sit at the table. They're just all this stuff is going on. Rough and tumble play is actually really developmentally appropriate for kids. And I really encourage parents to get involved in the rough and tumble play to teach kids how to be able to have that kind of safe type of play. It's a great learning medium for all of us. We can all engage in rough and tumble play. Maybe that looks like sitting on a swing at a playground and swinging back and forth. Maybe that looks like going to a batting cage. That's one of the things I really enjoy doing. I used to play softball in high school and college, and I still can hit a ball pretty hard. Man, my body just really responds to being able to do that. My husband and I like to go play frisbee golf. I really am not good at frisbee golf, but I'll go and play, and that is rough and tumble play because I'm using my body to do something, playing with our pets. My dog Lily loves to play tug of war. She likes to snuggle. She likes me to kind of surprise her, and that's some rough and tumble play between us. You know, if we're in a position to play on an athletic team, if we can play kickball, dodgeball, any of those types of things, that can be rough and tumble play for adults. Going hiking, taking a walk, anything that involves your body and getting it moving is rough and tumble play. Sometimes during the pandemic, I had a lot of anxiety. I'm kind of a little bit of have a lot of energy kind of person anyway, but anxiety was really getting in the way of me enjoying like everyday life because it just, everything kind of felt in the beginning overwhelming. Now it kind of feels normal, but in the beginning I would wake up with anxiety and I would take my dog out and I would walk her in our neighborhood 3 or 4 times around the block just so I could get my body moving and some of that anxiety would work its way out. That's something you can do when you're feeling that need to do something. Your body wants to move, and that's part of rough and tumble play. Ritual play, I have a ton of board games in my office. I have some that are very active, like if any of you have kids or grandkids, Pop the Pig, where you're feeding these hamburgers to the pig and suddenly he explodes. That's something that's very exciting to children. It's very exciting to me too. It gets my heart moving a little bit. That is a type of play that where you're engaging. It can also be a type of rough and tumble play. Some other ritual play, which would be quieter of an activity, maybe chess or board games, sets with rules and structure, such as Monopoly. You're going to read the card and it's going to tell you what to do, and that has structure. That all falls into the world of ritual play. Ritual play can create the ability to strategize, to design things in your mind, to see 3 or 4 steps ahead what's going to happen. It brings people together for a common purpose and one goal, and that's to enjoy and have fun. My adult children and my family, we enjoy playing a game called Dixit. I don't know if many of you know Dixit, but you look at a card and you're trying to guess which person might have put that card down, and you kind of vote by putting a number out. And it takes some imagination to try to figure out who might be the culprit behind putting this card down. I've always been a person that loves board games. My parents raised me playing board games, Rummy Cube, Skip-Bo, Canasta, all those kinds of things, really fun. Imaginative play. If you remember back when you were a child, that could be recently or not as recently for some of us, and you had playing out fantasy games. So I have lots of little toys in my office. Let me see if I can grab one here that might, oh, I love this one. Let me show you this one. This guy, he's a dragon. Can you see his face? And his arms folded. I mean, if you're studying some body language, he looks a little grumpy, right? I show this to kids sometimes to see, to kind of gauge what their response is to his face. Like, how's he feeling? He looks grumpy. He looks angry. One kid said he looks hangry. And I'm like, oh, I understand hangry. You know, that's imaginative play, showing something, letting them engage. We can also have these kinds of things like tchotchkes that we enjoy. Maybe something reminds us of something else. And that can be imaginative play. People that play Dungeons and Dragons, that's a very imaginative play. And that's like top level nerdiness, I think. But people really do enjoy that. People that are into crafts, people that like to crochet or knit, that's imaginative play. Acting things out, telling a story, coloring. We in the adoption community, we're good storytellers. I just told you my story. I could have gone on and shared more, but we become good storytellers because story is so important to us. Painting, taking a class, anything that fosters your imagination through play, settles your nervous system, expands your brain. Body play. So this is spontaneous play, things that just happen, things you maybe not expecting to have happen. This is the most, to me, the most fun type of play. Sometimes I don't know what kind of mood my client's going to walk in. I had a little dude in here today that just had a really rough day at school, and he usually comes in all excited, and he came a little downcast. So we had to figure out how we could get back in our body. So we did, I can sit up here. We did some butterfly hugs. So if you cross your hands like this, and you just pat your shoulders, so relaxing. He was patting kind of hard. I don't know if you can hear that through my microphone. He was patting kind of hard, and we did this for about a minute and a half until he was like, oh, I feel better now. He took a big sigh. But what happens when we're doing that butterfly hug, get my brain back. So this middle of our brain here is called the corpus callosum, or we call it cross the midline. So there's a middle of us. So when you're crossing the midline, put my brain down so I can do this. Crossing the midline and engaging both parts of your body through your hands and your shoulders, it helps those neurons be able to fire and come back into your nervous system and sort of get back in your body into calm. People that are into yoga or Pilates or hiking, these big thrill roller coasters. I love going to Disneyland and riding Space Mountain. I really love the Star Wars land. I finally got to go there just a couple months ago. Maybe if you're on vacation, you spontaneously book like a whitewater rafting trip. Not that that would be a spontaneous thing, but maybe going rafting or doing something big that involves your body. That's called body play. The last one on our list is called object play. This form of play as adults will bring us back to our childhood. So I mentioned a few games that I really liked when I was a kid growing up. Canasta. My mom lives with us. We have a home that accommodates both of that. She has a part of the home and we have another part of the home. We'll still play canasta. She still beats me. I still haven't figured out the skill, and she's 89 and she's still really good at it. So that's something we enjoy doing. That takes me back to my childhood. Building with Lego is definitely a childhood thing. Lego are much more sophisticated these days than they used to be, but I'd really enjoy them. How many times did you build a blanket fort growing up? When was the last time you built a blanket fort? We used to, and still do, have blanket picnics where we'll put a blanket on the living room floor and sit there and have dinner and watch a movie. Then we moved to the recliners because we're old now, so that's more comfortable. But when my kids were small, we had blanket picnics with pizza almost every week. And that was something they enjoyed and still talk about. We used to build those blanket forts and just really allow that type of play. Manipulation of objects. I'm pretty good at a Rubik's Cube. I have not been able to solve all the sides yet, but I'm getting better all the time. Why are fidgets such a big deal right now? Because that's a form of object play where we're manipulating objects. Those poppets, how many of you have seen poppets? Like, they're everywhere. I have this really beautiful one I'll grab real quick. Somebody has tied it in a knot, but this is a big poppet. See that beautiful thing? It's a big butterfly. I have adults and kids will come in and put this on their lap and they'll pop it. And they're always like, but this is the good side of the paw pit. Those of you that know paw pits know there's a good side and not a harder side to pop. That's something that people really enjoy, manipulatives. There's some of the things that play really helps with is improving your cognitive skills. If you're playing a game that's challenging, your brain is working, it's exercising that muscle. It brings back that childlike exuberance. I'm sure that there are times when I am engaging in play with one of my clients and my little version of me is just so excited. I can feel it actually. I know that's the truth. But it also, as a therapist, that when I was a child, kind of lived in a world of fantasy and make-believe because it was just easier for me than being in reality. And many people are like that. But it brings me back to that time and allows me to have some play and to have some of that connection with my childhood. So I challenge you to find ways, experiment. I love the word experiment. It's very Gestalt. Experiment with finding ways that you can include more play and maybe even notice things that you already enjoy are already play. Something that you really already enjoy could already be play, and finding ways you can laugh more often is really important. It's one of my very favorite things is to laugh. What I loved about meeting Marnie in Indiana was being able to just know that we were going to laugh, and we did, and that was awesome. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to share about that? Just really experiment with your own play and find ways that you can play more often. I'm sure as adults, we haven't thought much about that. Okay, so when we're with other people, I already talked about the neurons that fire together, wire together, and that's super important. So when we're together and playing, we are co-regulating. Co-regulation is, I talk about this with my adults, my parents with their kids. If they're in their chaos, parents need to stay in their calm so they don't join them in their chaos. Because if the kid's screaming and you're screaming, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to be able to get the child regulated or keep mom or dad regulated. Especially true of children who are adopted, because sometimes they're very dysregulated and they can't tell you why. They don't have the verbal skill because some of that dysregulation is so pre-verbal. It comes from, can be in utero time. It could come from any time before we had the ability to have words. So being gentle with ourselves and finding in that person that we trust that we can co-regulate with is very important. This is one of my very favorite. I love Calvin and Hobbes. And that co-regulation perfection picture is my favorite because can you make faces at other people and have them make the same face? It's pretty fun. I enjoy that. I don't know how many else other people would enjoy that, but it's pretty awesome. Just to see if we can make the same face. Okay. I'm going to give a little shout out to breathing. Breathing is, something that we take for granted. We can take deep breaths. Very regulating. One of the things I work with my kids, because sometimes, and my adult clients too, sometimes they don't have the ability, or they don't notice that they're not breathing. I watch very closely for people that are breath holders. I am a recovering breath holder and I catch myself doing it when I might be uncomfortable or I might be nervous or there might be something going on in my life that is difficult for me to manage, that I'll hold my breath and then I'll not take deep enough breaths. And sometimes I feel a little woozy or like a little lightheaded. So taking that deep breath is so helpful. One other thing I teach my clients is what I call a big funky breath. So, or a dragon breath. If I get my grumpy dragon back here. You're allowed to laugh with me, but not at me. So I'm going to do one. Then I want everybody on the screen to do one. Okay, so pay attention. Watch what I'm going to do. This is a big funky breath. Ooh, makes your head a little swirly. Let me see. I'm going to bring up the gallery view for those of you that have your cameras on. I'd like you to do one with me. Okay, so on the count of 3, and you stick your tongue out as far as you can, and you take a big breath, and then I want you to, if you feel it in your head, I want you to do that. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Now let it out. Do you feel a little bit of that swirliness happening? Yeah. I don't suggest doing too many of those in a row because it will make you dizzy, but when you're feeling dysregulated, if you can do that, I'm telling you, it's a game changer to get you back in your body. Okay, get off the gallery view so I can see where I'm going. So if you can notice throughout the day taking breaths, super important. This is Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed away this week. And in his, let me see, in his book that right now is escaping my mind, but I'm going to tell you because it's really important. If you are an Audible book listener, I'm currently listening to it on Audible myself. I'll tell you what it is as soon as my phone decides to tell me what it is. The Art of Mindful Living is the name of his book. And the very first chapter, the very first meditation, he talks about just noticing the breath. So I want to read this quote to you, and I just want you to kind of pay attention to it. Breathing in, I'm aware of the painful feeling in me. Breathing out, I'm aware of the painful feeling in me. This is art. We have to learn it because most of us don't like to be with our pain. I don't, for sure. We're afraid of being overwhelmed by the pain, so we always seek to run from it. There's loneliness, fear, anger, despair in us. Mostly we try to cover it up by consuming. There are those of us who go to look for something to eat, others who turn on the television. In fact, many people do both at the same time. And even if the TV program isn't interesting at all, we don't have the courage to turn it off because if we turn it off, we have to go back to ourselves and encounter the pain inside. The marketplace provides us with many items to help us in our effort to avoid the suffering inside. Now, isn't that so true? Let me just melt into my couch and watch television for hours on end so I don't have to deal with the voicemail on my phone or deal with some feelings I might be having about something or a challenge I might be having in my life. So much easier than paying attention. But if you can just notice right now that you're breathing, notice, and you don't have to do anything special. You just notice your in-breath and your out-breath and your in-breath and your out-breath. It reminds you that you're alive. That's another experiment you can work on during your day. It's just taking a moment, maybe once an hour, maybe every 6 hours, that you're taking an in and out breath. And in those moments when you're noticing, you bring yourself compassion. You bring yourself acceptance. I really love that particular practice in his book. And he died, like I said, this week at the age of 95. What a long, long life. Okay, so this is where our activity is going to come in. When I was a kid, one of my very favorite things to do was take a piece of paper. This is not my piece of paper that I want to use. Take a piece of paper like this, and I have some on my desk, some jumbo crayons. And what I'd like you to do is, if you have, somebody said they had Sharpies or they have markers, if you can find one that's black or dark, all I want you to do is take your piece of paper and just do a scribble. It doesn't have to be anything formal. I don't want you to overthink it because I know many of you are already overthinking it, so knock it off. Just do a scribble on your paper. I remember doing this all the time, so I just did one. That's mine. Pretty easy. Nothing fantastic. Kind of looks like nothing. And then as we're talking, I want you to notice your breath. You just take whatever colors you want and you color in those scribble places, those scribble lines. I'm actually going to give us just let's see, a little bit of time to do this. Maybe we're just quiet while we're scribbling and drawing. Yeah, I love that other people did the same thing. I thought I invented it until I found out I didn't, and then I was kind of disappointed. Amber, you mentioned Pema Chodron. She's also one of my very favorite teachers that I go to often. But what I'd like you to do is just take time, color in your scribbles. I'll come back to you. I'm going to color as well. There's no rules about this. The only rule is as you're doing it, I want you to notice your breath. And you don't even have to finish the whole thing if you don't feel like it. Just take a few minutes to color. Okay, we've been coloring for about 6 minutes now. How's it coming? I'd be interested in the chat if anyone wants to share what this experience was like, noticing your breath, taking time to color, kind of being quiet. Don't do this a lot in our lives, the being quiet part. I'll show you mine. I'm not finished, but I ran out of color, so I need to get a bigger box. But that's just, you know, for whatever reason, when I was a little girl, I would do these, and I had a rule that I would use each color 3 times if I didn't have very many colors. So I used each color 3 times. And for my organized need for organization in my brain, sometimes I would do a big space, a small space, and a tiny space to use all the 3 colors. That's what felt good to me. Not very good about being quiet. It was good exercise. Love that. I love that we're doing this all together too, Tina, that we all took a few moments to color our whatever we drew. Yvonne, that's really pretty. Thank you for showing. Aaron works in threes. So funny. Oh, yes. Reminding yourself to breathe, noticing that in and out breath. What's his Lori showing hers? If you're showing yours and I don't mention this, just because there's lots of you here and I can't see everybody at the same time. Yeah, I love that we all agreed to draw a bit. You don't have to be an artist. Believe me, I am not an artist. I am married to somebody that does watercolor and draws these beautiful lands or paints these beautiful landscapes, and this is my art. But mine is just as good in my eyes. Don't tell him I said that. I enjoy his work very much. I like that you wrote, Amber, that you needed permission to just be allowed to sit and do this. Gail had only one color, so I created a pattern. Now I love that. That's super creative. Granddaughter's now doing it. Awesome. We can color with our children, grandkids. Love that. Who else is showing theirs? Peter. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, and there's your granddaughters. I love that. Hopefully you guys will keep coloring. Love it. You're in Australia. I had 2 colors, so I did patterns as well. You guys are super creative. I love that. Thank you, Marcie. Yeah. Did anybody else do this when they were a kid? I know somebody mentioned that they did. Yeah, Paige is saying yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. My other question, and if you want to write this in the chat, what was that like just noticing your breath? Your playtime starts at 1 p.m. every Friday. How lovely. How was it noticing your breath? Doodler, you might have had those same, Tina, those same yellow notebooks with the athletes on it that I used to color over their faces all the time. Relaxing and soothing, yep. It's something we all humans have in common is that we breathe. All animals, all mammals, all creatures, we all breathe. Yeah, I love that. Relieves the stress, gives you energy. I have this little dog, and anybody that knows me knows about Lily. Sometimes she'll sit on my lap and I will match her breathing, which is very relaxing to match hers. Matching other people's breathing with someone, noticing your breath. It's really important. Oh, Amber said notice her shoulders are tense. Yes. Time for a massage for you, Amber. Marina says it has to keep reminding herself to breathe. You know, our body breathes by itself, but sometimes taking that deep breath, we do have to remind ourselves. Oh, how much physical effort you are using. Yep, Gail. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I'm really delighted that you guys all took a moment to do this coloring with me. I kind of like how mine turned out. Sometimes I'm very methodical. This was more of a scribble drawing, but I have like wide markers. And when I really need to like get back in my body and I need to have some order in my thoughts, I'll take the marker and I'll make straight lines through the scribble spaces. So it looks like I've just made complete straight lines. It looks pretty cool. And sometimes I'll do them in different directions, so it looks even neater, but super helpful to me. Oh, Lori shared that she has a stack of adult coloring books. Awesome. Some of those adult coloring books can be very adult. Okay. So one of the things that I appreciated that nobody judged or said that theirs was not good or theirs was some kind of way. I I appreciated that nobody was too judgy about their artwork. Maybe on the inside you were and you wouldn't have shared that. But one thing I want to be really clear about is all feelings are okay. Every feeling that we have, all are welcome here. All feelings are welcome. Which the practice with noticing your breath is also noticing that you're having an emotion. Oh, there's that anger again. There it is. I'm not angry. I'm feeling angry. You know, the English language, and I don't know how it is in others. I know somebody was here from Mexico City, so I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not sure. But our English language, we will say, I'm so angry. You made me so angry. Those are two very misnomer kinds of statements because nobody can make us angry. People's behavior may cause our nervous system to have a reaction that feels like anger. That's really what's happening. Is we felt some kind of way because they did something that made us feel that kind of way. And now we feel all this anger, but we're not anger. Our whole body is not anger. We feel angry. That's the deal. This is another little project I like to do. This is my little caterpillar. And each color represents an emotion. So blue is sadness, pink is excitement, green is happiness, purple is bored. There's more pink, which is excitement, and then happiness. The day I made this, that's kind of how I was feeling, and I really liked the little eyeballs. They both have eyelashes on them. So paying attention to our emotions, not without judgment, is really important as humans. Okay, so I want to talk about the therapeutic power of play. I literally feel when I'm engaged in play with another person or just on my own that I'm plugged in differently. I feel like my nervous system and my body are feeling different. And that's one of the things I love about the work I get to do. So here's some of the things that play helps. It's a stress reliever. It's fun. It can trigger that release of those endorphins. You know, when we're really enjoying something or we're really engaged in something, those feel good chemicals get released from our brain, washes over our brain, goes into our body. Endorphins promote an overall sense of well-being. It actually is a pain reliever, which is interesting. It can help relieve some pain. It relaxes our autonomic nervous system, which is the thing that runs through our whole body. Those of you that are fans of Stephen Porges or have done any kind of study about how our nervous system works, our vagus nerve is part of our autonomic nervous system. It improves our brain function, playing chess, completing puzzles, doing Sudoku puzzles, that new stupid addictive Wordle game driving me crazy every day. How many 5-letter words do I actually know and can I get it in 5? But it's increasing my brain ability. That's what I'm telling myself. Social interaction, it helps with playing with friends. Back in the day, we used to have game night at our house. We used to have people over to play games. That was fun. I grew up with my parents doing that. That was the only time that we got takeout pizzas when they had friends over. My brother and I would have takeout pizza, which was a big deal because there weren't a lot of takeout pizza places in Vegas at the time. It stimulates our mind and boosts our creativity. I notice, and it's true, that young children, the more creative they can be in their play, the less time they spend on a screen, the more their intelligence increases, their problem solving increases. You'll learn a new task better if it's fun. Like, I don't necessarily like to do some things, but if I make a game out of it, then it moves by much faster. And here's the important part. Play actually improves relationships and connection to others. That's that neurons that fire together, wire together. When you laugh together, you foster empathy and compassion and trust with other people. I have a close-knit group of colleagues that are also friends. We're all therapists, and we spend some time together. We offer share and those kinds of things. And so when I'm able to be with them in a creative space, and I love that, we really enjoy one another's company. When I'm with other adoptee friends, or people in the adoption constellation, that's where I feel the most myself. I don't have to explain my quirks, and I really appreciate that. And so spending this time with you in some play has been good for me as well. We develop a playful nature. we're able to enjoy life a little bit more. We're able to deal with stressful situations better. And even though I'm a complete introvert, I don't really enjoy meeting, being around big groups of people. I love meeting new people, but like 5 or 6 at a time, not a whole bunch of people at once. It stresses me. It makes me feel a little bit like I need to shut down. But if I can talk about play and make it a playful situation, it's much better for me. And I know lots of people that are introverts have that same reaction. One of my favorite quotes here from George Bernard Shaw: if we don't stop playing because we grow old because we stop playing. I don't think I'm going to ever grow old as long as I'm doing some play. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about our autonomic nervous system. It's the one thing that we all have in common. Every human has one. The whole human family, we all share the same biobehavioral platform. We all come from the same place. We're all humans. I love the Killers, so I needed to use a Killers quote here. Okay, so let's talk about how our vagus nerve, how our state. So when I'm in a state of play, I'm up at the top of this ladder. I'm in my ventral vagal state. I feel really good. Some days I come to work and I'm just not in a good mood. I just don't want to. Sometimes I just don't want to do life. I mean, that's pretty normal. I have a pretty awesome job. I get to do play and I get to hang out with fun kids, and sometimes kids are challenging. Often they are. But when I can get in the right frame of mind, man, I'm up in that ventral vagal state. When I go into my sympathetic nervous state, that's that fight or flight. I know this about myself. I'm a freezer. I've been a freezer since I was an infant. I have a picture of myself. If any of you were in Indiana in that workshop or have viewed it since, I share a picture of little tiny baby self of me the first day I was in my parents' home, and I have this frozen look on my face. I still do that as an adult. I'm 56 years old. I still freeze. But the difference is I can feel it coming and I can intervene and do something different. I don't have to shut down. I can make eye contact with someone I trust. I can take some deep breaths. Excuse me. I can do some things that help me come out of that and not go so deeply into freeze. That sympathetic place, that fight or flight, is often what we do when we feel any kind of threat. You know, we get angry quickly. We're quick to anger. We struggle with our emotions. Maybe we cry a lot, or maybe we shut down and we don't want to be around anyone. Those are some things we do as humans. So play helps us be more in our body, helps us notice what our body is feeling and doing. So I think it's really important that we figure out, and you can do more research on polyvagal theory. I've put Deb Dana, who's one of my favorite teachers on this topic. I love the name of her website, rhythmofregulation.com. You can go there and learn more about this and understand what state you come from. I try to stay in ventral vagal, but I'm sometimes in that dorsal vagal place, and I have to bring myself, I don't have to, I choose to bring myself to a place where I can engage more with life. And of course, Woody and Buzz, I just love that picture. Whoever made that meme, it's brilliant. Fight or freeze. So I'm going to rock your world a little bit here. Often when I talk about this topic with anyone, someone asks about the fawn response. Well, there's some controversy. I get the fawn response, and we in the adoptees have kind of taken this on as our badge. I don't know. That's something that we do. It's the fawn response is, I think it, and I've read this and seen the people that study and research on this topic. It falls into the freeze response. So maybe at like the second rung above, totally frozen. It falls into that area. And what that is people pleasing. Like, I will do anything to make you happy. Just don't be mad at me. I will be compliant. I will follow all the rules. I will clean up after myself. I will do the things that will make you like me all the time. I used to have a client early on in my work with adults, and I still do work with adults. I do enjoy them. That would bring me, she knew I drank chai tea from Starbucks because she asked me one time because it was on my desk. So for 3 or 4 weeks consistently, she brought me a grande chai tea. And I finally said to her one day, You don't have to bring this to me every week. I like you whether you walk in the door with it or not. And that just deepened our relationship. And she didn't have to fawn anymore. She didn't have to please me. She didn't have to do those things to make me like her, because I liked her even before I met her, just because she was another human coming to be in this, share that space with me. So that's what we do as humans. We try to get people to like us. And God forbid we have a perception that they don't like us, because then we're really going to overdo it and really going to go into that fawn state. Fawn has not been officially recognized as a state of the autonomic nervous system, though I do believe it falls into freeze. And I love how Marnie just wrote in the chat that she's a recovering people pleaser. I am also in recovery as well. Yeah, but I do like people to like me, and I do go to extents sometimes to do that, and I recognize that within myself, and I'm working on it. Okay, so let's look at our saber-toothed tiger and our caveman, because this is really where it all started, is back in the day in evolution, as we became more human and able to live life, not in this terrified state of being chased by saber-toothed tigers. So what happens is our body informs our brain, not the other way around. This is the mind blow thing. People think we have a thought first, and then we decide how to feel. It's the other way around. So our nervous system has a feeling. So I have a feeling right now that if somebody hits that wall with that door, I'm going to jump and get nervous. I'm already anticipating it happening, though it's later in the day, it probably won't, but I'm anticipating it could happen. So my body's prepared for it. If it does happen, what am I going to do? So I'll have a response in my body, and in microseconds, that's when my brain decides what to do. It's not the other way around. Our brain doesn't say, well, now I'm scared. Now my whole day just went to shit. It's awful, whatever. That's it. The whole day's ruined. That's what our overthinking brain does. And here's a shocking bit of news. We don't have to believe everything our brain says. I'm going to say that again. We don't have to believe everything our brain comes up with. My brain can come up with some doozy things to think about, and I take a step back. That's interesting, brain, and I don't have to believe everything you say. That includes, if I go back to my story, my mother didn't want me. I don't have to believe that, because that wasn't about me. She didn't want any child. Could have been me, could have been the guy next door. She didn't want to have another child. It wasn't about me specifically. I don't have to believe those thoughts about I'm not good enough. I don't have to believe those things about I'm not smart enough. I don't have to believe any of those negative thoughts. I choose to believe what I choose to believe. It is a work in progress, and I get to notice, oh, I'm having some thoughts today, or oh, I'm feeling really anxious today. I wonder what that's about. And I can examine it and be a little bit more present with myself, but I don't have to believe every thought I have. So here we are about overthinking. It's a superpower. I used to kid around. Many of us humans, we are overthinkers, overachievers. Busy is a trauma response. The busier I can stay, the less I can think about anything hard, difficult, painful. Just like in the quote I read earlier, we vegetate in front of the TV, we spend time on social media, video games. People, this is not my problem. I do not exercise excessively. I wish I exercised more. Would be good for my body. Overeating. The more avoidant and detached we can become from with those behaviors, those are symptoms of trauma and trauma responses to being human. It's a sympathetic response, that fight or flight. So, as I talked about earlier, we don't have to believe everything we think. We can give ourselves a brain break. And play allows that to happen. I love that goofy little picture. It's my actual brain. That's what it feels like some days. And I'm sure others can relate to that little picture with the gerbil. Maybe it's a hamster. I can't tell. It's probably a hamster. But yeah, we don't have to believe everything we come up with. I love the power to connect. How do we connect? One thing we can do to connect is to be outside in nature. Every morning this past month or so, I've been sitting at my kitchen table where I can see my yard, and I have some hummingbird feeders out there, and our yard has just been inundated with hummingbirds. I think that they sent an email to all the other hummingbirds in the area, and they all come, and I just love sitting there eating my oatmeal in the morning, watching these hummingbirds. And this morning I sat there and just sat because I didn't have things to do this morning, so I had some extra time. And I looked at the clock because I'd been watching the hummingbirds, and I'd been sitting there for 40 minutes and I hadn't even noticed that the time went by. I was so delighted by these hummingbirds. And that's part of being in nature and with Mother Earth. Laughter is a big deal. Eye contact. I love making eye contact with people. It's not like that weird staring into your eyes, like romantic on the movies eye contact, but going to the grocery store and making eye contact with the cashier. You know, we all currently, I don't know in your state, but in Nevada, we're living like this. So sometimes our eyes are all we can see. And having some light in my eyes, some delight in my eyes, and reflecting the preciousness of the other person back to them is something I work at. I love this quote by Brene Brown. I define connection as the energy that exits between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. I have many friends that I get that strength and sustenance from, and sometimes I want more. And I know how to ask for it if I need more. I know who I can reach out to. I know who I can connect with. And I love those little random happenstance moments when maybe I'm having an off day and I get a text message from somebody, a funny meme, or just a, hey, how's your day going? Or yesterday I received a text message from a friend that said, I have a 30-minute break. Can you chat on the phone? And I was like, oh, I have the same time. Let's talk for a few minutes. And it was great. It was what we both needed and we didn't know. That doesn't always happen, but I love those moments. And sometimes that little tiny Janet self, that little frozen baby self of me wants more of that, and I want more connection, and I don't know how to ask for it, and I get weird, and then I go pet my dog and I feel better. But recognizing that in myself, that little tiny Janet needs something. How can I connect? Do I need to color? Do I need to do some Lego? Do I need to build a puzzle? Do I need to walk outside? What do I need to do? And recognizing that in myself and offering it to myself. When we were in Indiana, and I put this in because it was a request, blowing bubbles, my favorite. You're blowing air out. I often will have kids pop bubbles with their pointer fingers, with their pinkies, with their nose. So if you have bubbles, if you have kids around, you don't have to have kids, you can do this by yourself. Blow some bubbles and then try to pop them with your body parts. Try to pop them with your elbows. That's kind of hard. With your feet, that's fun too. Somebody loves SpongeBob. I have to laugh, and I'll share this little bit of information. I'm not a really big SpongeBob fan. I like it, but sometimes the humor is a little bit not my favorite. But when I'm not home or I'm working later, that's my husband's go-to. I will come home and he's watched several episodes of SpongeBob on whatever the streaming is, and I crack up. He's this grown person watching SpongeBob, and he laughs to the point of when he cries. So it's one of my favorite things. Chewing gum. I always have some gum around. It stimulates this nerve in your brain that is responsible for alertness. The other thing that's really cool is if you chew minty gum, it stimulates it even more. I also love the movie Grease. Bubble guns are fun, yes. They're also fun to ship to Indiana, so I don't have to carry them on the plane and get kicked off. So I did take them all home and nobody said a thing. Okay, so I wanted to, coming to the end of our time together, I want to play this really cute video for you. It's about 8 minutes long, and it's called Alike. I think it's from either Sweden or Switzerland, but there's no words in it, but you'll understand the meaning and how we can reset our buttons by play. Go ahead and Sorry. Let me try it again. There we go. I really love that video. I just really think it speaks to how we get so bogged down in life as grown-ups that we forget to enjoy what we have. And, you know, we in the adoption world, adopted parent, biological parents, we get so bogged down with the heaviness that sometimes we carry because of our stories that we forget that there's a place inside of us that loves play and loves to be blue or orange. When we can get to that place and we can recognize within ourselves that we don't have to take ourselves or our situations quite as seriously as sometimes we do, that there are opportunities in our lives to just notice beauty. You know, the past, gosh, week or so, the moon has been absolutely gorgeous, and just taking a few moments looking at the moon. To me, I heard a quote one time that the finger pointing to the moon is the problem. All we see is our finger sometimes, but we're missing this great big moon. It's like, look at the moon, but all we see is our finger. The finger might be whatever the problem of the moment is, or whatever's going in our life, or ruminating on being rejected, or ruminating upon relinquishment, or the difficulties that come with being part of the adoption constellation. But if we can look at the bigger picture, which is the moon, and find some joy and remember that there's play and there's laughter and there's things that we can be happy about, that doesn't negate or put aside or bury any of the difficulty. It just gives us a little moment to take a step away and take a breath and be within ourselves and be able to find some play and find some happiness. Oops. Okay, so sometimes we have to ask for what we need. I talked about this a little bit. So some of the things that I need is I need friends to check up on me sometimes, because I get quiet. And when I'm quiet, things are not good. I like quiet. I like to be quiet and contemplative, but when I'm too quiet and I stay away from people, that's when I need to reach out. I need company when I do something hard. My company is usually my husband. I'm going to do this hard thing. Can you just come and hang out with me while I do it? The hard thing might be making a big decision about something, because sometimes I have a hard time choosing between two good things. I need people to remember that I'm hurting. I'm not perfect. I have lots of stuff I work through and deal with, and we all do. And sometimes I need that support. I need to remember to celebrate the good stuff. So today I did this presentation, and when I get home this evening, we're going to go try a new Indian restaurant that we've been excited about. And it's a little celebration that I got to do this and spend time with you, and that I got to put this information together. Sometimes I just need to talk and have somebody listen. And sometimes you have to tell people, what I want you to do right now is just to listen to me. I don't want any advice. I don't want any feedback. I just want you to listen to me. Can you do that? Yes. That's everything that's going on. Just kind of spew it all out there. And sometimes I need cinnamon toast. It's kind of my go-to. Throw that in there. It's not always my best coping skill, but it is a coping skill. Okay. So winding things up, I love this little poem. Marshall Lyles is a registered play therapist, and one of my very favorite trainers in play therapy. He has written this little poem that's called You Matter. You haven't lost yourself. Someone just killed all the lights, and your eyes haven't adjusted yet. You're still there. You're still whole. You're still you. Be reassured. Darkness never lasts, but you do. Okay. And just in closing, all parts are welcome, all emotions, all people, all your feelings, anything that's going on is welcome. Okay. Any thoughts or comments or things you want to ask about? I welcome that.
Yes, we'd like to go ahead and open it up to questions. We have a few minutes left. If anyone would like to raise their virtual hand and ask Janet a question. Your presentation was outstanding and so
Thank you.
informative, and just fantastic job, Janet.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
And we got to play and we got to color.
Yay.
Okay. Anybody want to raise their virtual hand? A question, or take yourself off of mute? A lot of information, right?
Hi, this is, hello? Hi, this is Yvonne, and I like the fact, oh, it was awesome presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It brought some tears as far as the video, because that showed me about prison, taking stuff on that you don't have to. I was the one that put in 1 o'clock every Friday. I become little Dee, and that's my time to go back and heal and grow myself. A part of it also is I've been through the phase to not really care what people think. And sometimes I think I've taken it to the other side of the, I really don't care what you think. And so I really have to take notice of myself, not to be narcissistic or whatever else with that. But it's a process. The process.
It is a process.
Thank you.
And when you're welcome, when we can learn to trust our process, like sounds like you're doing that, you're in the process of trusting the process. That's when the magic can happen. That's when we can elicit change and growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And imagine, I have that, I saw you for is with the sea. Water is a healer to me. And part of what I do on Fridays is that emerging. It's for take myself back. I used to live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So I'm back at my condo, Virginia Beach, seeing the beach, seeing the dolphins and all of that. And that's my peaceful.
I love that.
That's
my happy place. That's my happy place too. And I can't get to the beach enough in the middle of the desert.
No.
There's a little man-made lake kind of where I live, this little community. It's called Desert Shores. And sometimes I'll take my lunch and sit in my car and watch the ducks float and beg for food from people in the park and look at the water just to have a little break. It's very nice.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Lori has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Lori.
Talking about the different type of plays, can an activity be multiple type of plays at one time?
Yeah. You know, you don't have to follow this set guideline of rules of this is the kind of play I'm doing now and then I'm going to do something else. Sometimes it's everything at once. Yeah. I love when a child comes in with all this energy, and we call it it's aggressive play actually. And I have some pool noodles in my office, and we will joust with pool noodles until we get some energy out. But they think they're like beating me up with a pool noodle, which sometimes they really are. But what we're doing is we're practicing noticing our body. So we take a deep breath, we bow, then we joust, and then we step out of that energy and notice how we can calm ourselves down. And that covers lots of kinds of play. They're noticing their body, they're doing something active, they're moving, they're really getting into it. And they're learning to trust an adult that they can hit me with that pool noodle and I'm not going to like them any less. And I hit them right back.
Yeah.
And they think it's really funny.
No,
I'm sure my neighbor therapist is like, what is she doing in there today?
I do that a lot with my youth, high school youth, Sunday school class. Kind of just to loosen them up. They come in, we start playing, we have pool noodles, we joust around, and then it's like, okay, everyone take deep breaths, let's sit down and let's focus. So I never connected that as a self-regulation. So
of course,
awesome.
It's noticing how your body works. And then when they're in a situation where they're not in a controlled environment like my office or like your Sunday school class, oh, I have a muscle memory if I calmed myself down before, let me try that again.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
Excellent presentation,
Thank
by
you.
the way. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, Janet, I do
Yeah.
have another question that came to me personally. Newborns start life connecting neurons mostly versus growing brain cells. How does a primal wound child, it moved on me, hold on just a second. Lost the question. Bear with me. How does a primal wound child differ from others during this early stage?
Are we talking about infancy or in utero? Because in utero is where those parts of the brain that they discuss start happening.
Newborns.
Newborns. So have you ever had or heard a parent say, oh, they're such an easy baby? I was the easiest baby because I wasn't going to make a peep because I was already, well, a little bit more about my story. I went from, out the 2 doors to one foster home. I was adopted. They didn't keep me. The state removed me because I was undernourished and I had like the failure to thrive, to another foster home to my family. So when I finally ended up there, I didn't make a peep. I was very compliant. So that's something sometimes we'll see with children who are in the process of being adopted, is that, oh, they're such an easy baby. Well, of course they're easy because they're in that frozen state. So that's one way they're different. Or they're in that arch your back, can't get relaxed, can't, seems like I have a tummy ache, colicky. And lots of children that are not adopted have that same kind of behavior, and it's safety seeking. That's one couple different ways that they're different. That removal from what we've known for so long, and suddenly they're not there. And that connection in utero starts even if the mother knows they're not going to keep them and have some kind of feeling around that. What then happens is cortisol from the mother's brain starts going through the bloodstream, which goes to the baby, and then you have an over anxious baby. I see that as well with children that come to see me that have been conceived through in vitro fertilization. Maybe there's been some failed attempts prior, and then here's the baby, the long-awaited baby, and the mother's so anxious through the whole pregnancy because they've lost, or that's, things that have happened have brought this baby, and then the baby's difficult because of anxiety, because of all the cortisol. So it's babies all develop in how they develop, and just knowing some of those sciencey, brainy kind of things is helpful. Hopefully that answers the person's question.
Okay, thank you. And
You're
I
welcome.
see one more in the chat room, and with that, we'll probably need to go ahead and close because we're past our time. And that is, Janet, can you speak to the subconscious area of the brain in adoptees?
Oh, gosh. Well, we all have a subconscious brain. I don't know necessarily if adoptees are, I don't know the science behind that. That might be something I look up, but our subconscious is always acting, doing things, like when we're dreaming, that's our subconscious brain. Rosemary, I don't know the answer to your question because I have not done deep dive reading on the difference between the 2 types of brains, an adopted brain and non-adopted brain. I would say that all humans have a subconscious, and sometimes because of trauma, little capital T trauma, little t trauma, that reacts how it reacts. And I don't know if there's a difference, and I will look it up because now I'm curious. Thank you for bringing that question up.
Thank you. Okay, Janet, once again, we want to thank you for joining us this evening and being our spotlight guest. And just a great presentation. It was just excellent.
Thanks for asking me.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. For those of you, what we did want to mention that, we can take this conversation after hours. If you're so inclined to join us on Facebook to the Adoption Happy Hour Facebook page, maybe some of you will even be brave enough to show us a picture of your coloring tonight. That would be really cool if you wanted to go ahead and share those on Facebook with us or carry on the conversation. So again, thanks. And Jennifer, we have closing comments?
Yep, I just need to be able to share. Let me bring that up here. We have next Friday, we have the dynamic Eric Howard. You need in the kick in the pants to be energetic, that's Erica. And she's going to be talking about self-care. Registration is open. I just dropped the link in there, but you can also find the event on our Facebook, and you can click registration from there. And then we also have coming up on the 8th, it would be another meeting for Adoptees Path to Recovery. Those are bi-monthly. So it'll be the 8th and the 22nd. Registration is currently open for the 8th. And I believe Dr. Joyce's program, Putting Yourself Together After Reunion, we're looking at the 22nd. That registration is not up right now.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. It's been great having you all visit us with us this evening. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, stay warm, stay cool wherever you're at. And we will see you next Friday, unless you're going to join us online. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Right.
Good night.